The weather. It's there every day. Sun, wind, and rain are basic to life. But sometimes the weather is more than just that. Sometimes it's stronger, violent. The wind becomes a tornado, the rain a hurricane. The Earth's atmosphere, for a moment, makes it uninhabitable. And there is nothing we can do about weather like this. Hurricanes do stop or slow when they reach land as they run out of fuel, those warm tropical waters, but it takes time. Meanwhile, they hammer coastal communities. Hurricanes and typhoons are the only natural disasters with their own names. One of the biggest and deadliest happened in Central America. It was called Hurricane Mitch. Satellite computer imaging shows Mitch's rain as red. Most of it was right around the eye. It's the rain, the second weapon in the hurricane's armory, that can also do huge damage. These torrents simply washed the land off the mountains. More than 20,000 people died, and the economies of several countries were set back 30 years. But after the wind and then rain, it's the third weapon of a hurricane that is probably the worst.
And perhaps most terrifying is the storm surge. This is when huge areas of the ocean get lifted up. 20, 30, in a really extreme case, maybe even 40 feet, and just inundate the whole area.
The hurricane's sheer wind power drives waves from far out at sea, increasing the high tide by as much as 20 feet. It's not a wall of water, just an immensely high tide. 90% of people killed in hurricanes die in storm surges. Recently in Venezuela, a violent rainstorm set off mudslides, which buried villages and caused 50,000 deaths. They're tragic, but killer storms aren't new. Towns in medieval Europe were swept away. Millions were killed in vast floods in Asia in the 1800s. And in just one century, North America was hit by both drought and blizzards. This is the biggest hitter of all, and something that strikes several times every year. It can be hundreds of miles wide and often last more than a week. Hurricane, typhoon, cyclone. Different names from different languages, all referring to the same churning, murderous mass of waterlogged air, with power equivalent to all the world's nuclear armories. In fact, in World War II, more damage was done to the U.S. Navy by weather than any enemy. In December 1944, the U.S. 3rd Pacific Fleet accidentally sailed into the center of a typhoon off the Philippines. 3 destroyers capsized, 146 planes, and 800 men were lost.
It was a storm that swallowed a city. An estimated mile-wide tornado made a direct hit this evening on Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Population 180,000. Mass casualties are reported. The number's still in flux. But storm fatalities also reported tonight in Mississippi, Georgia, and Tennessee. These twisters part of a storm system that began to sweep the South on Monday. Steve Osunsami has been covering it and joins us now from Lincoln, Alabama with the latest. Steve.
Bill, it was a frightening night. First, there was the sound of the sirens from city to city that you could hear blaring through the night. Then there was the sight of the funnel clouds racing across the sky, bringing high winds and tornadoes, hopscotching all across the state.
This thing is massive.
The pictures of the skies over Alabama this evening were frightening. Unbelievably large tornadoes swirling over large sections of Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. Some of them appeared to be more than a mile wide.
It looks like we got hit by a 5,000-pound bomb here.
Over the weekend, 70 tornadoes in 70 states, but what happened here in Joplin was certainly the worst. Just take a look at right around us. There are at least 6 cars mashed into a ball here with a chain-link fence and building debris and trees all mashed in. Take a look in the door of this car. It's a Chevy, I think, but you can see a brick coming through the door, and then look at how the door is just riddled and punched all the way through with these holes. It looks like it was shot at by a machine gun, and anyone that was in that car wouldn't have survived. Right
from up here.
But from the air, this disaster takes on a whole new dimension.
You are looking at the beginning of 7 miles of pure hell, the path of the Joplin tornado. From the ground, it's pretty terrible. From the air, it's hard to believe when you look and see the swath of damage.
Entire neighborhoods wiped off the map.
Tornadoes look like they're destroying things by sucking them up, but what they really do is just batter with sheer wind power. And once an object is in the air, it can be lifted into the vortex. It can also be turned into a missile. Lots of otherwise unscathed buildings come out looking like pincushions. In rare circumstances, lightning can fracture a gas pipe. It was a lightning-sparked gas explosion that set fire to an apartment house in Atlanta. The miracle was that everyone living there got out safely. Atlanta that day was hit by a blitzkrieg of lightning. Due to unusual weather conditions, thousands of bolts shot out of the sky, and buildings burned all over the city. It was all part of the billions of dollars in damage. Thunderstorms. Like it or not, every year in the U.S., lightning strikes 40 million times.
The National Weather Service is sounding the alarm tonight about a monster storm roaring across Alaska. They are describing it as epic and having, quote, a magnitude rarely experienced. But once-in-a-lifetime weather has been hammering the U.S. all year, so we asked ABC's Cecilia Vega to try to find out more about why.
They're used to storms in Alaska, but not like this.
And I couldn't get out of the building because the wind was blowing so hard, so pretty wild and crazy.
The epic storm slamming Alaska's western coast right now is twice the size of Texas. Winds reaching nearly 90 miles an hour, as powerful as a hurricane, tearing off roofs and blowing the snow sideways.
We have an airplane, so my husband, he's got it like quadruple tied down.
Meteorologists have their own word for this snow hurricane, a snowicane. But Alaska is only the latest in a series of freak weather events. Recently, once in a generation, they are now coming every month. A freak October snowstorm crippled the Northeast, even canceling Halloween in some parts. Raging Texas fires in September. In August, Hurricane Irene flooded New England. It was the country's second hottest summer on record, the driest ever in Texas, even worse than the Dust Bowl years. And in April, a super outbreak of tornadoes in the southeast left 300 dead. There was not only the deadliest day for tornadoes in recent history, but also the costliest, with more than $10 billion in damage.